At the start of the movie, there's an old man who hears voices upstairs. When he investigates, all he finds is a self-turning toy. Later, he notices a shadow and covers it with a sheet. Though he sees nothing at first, the shadow eventually appears and frightens him. Sadly, the hidden figure attacks and harms him. The story then shifts to a few years later, where a couple, including Allison, returns to her childhood home after her father's death. Despite the initial sadness, Allison feels good to be back. Allison's old memories come back, but Richard suggests moving to the city if she doesn't feel good in their distant house. Allison, a mom, starts having odd dreams and experiences sleep paralysis, a childhood condition. Her husband comforts her, just like her father did when she was a child. Allison wonders if there's something wrong with her, especially because she sees a lady watching her during these episodes, similar to her childhood experiences that her father explained as not real. Allison's father used to reassure her that her scary dreams were just illusions, but when he left, the nightmares returned. One morning, as Richard gets ready for work, Allison watches a paranormal investigator on TV claiming to capture souls. Intrigued, she considers reaching out to him about her own experiences. While cleaning the house after Richard leaves, Allison comes across a picture of a bride and groom she can't recognize. She sets it aside and continues cleaning. During this, she hears the sound of flowing water, leading her to check and discover an open tap. Allison finds water in the wash basin and discovers someone's hair in it, making her anxious about how they got there. While calming her crying baby, she notices a thread resembling one her mother, a tailor, used to have. During dinner, Richard shares he needs to leave the city for business. Allison, uneasy, suggests he might take his secretary. Aware of his past liking for the secretary, Allison protests, but Richard explains it's crucial for his job. Angry, Allison leaves without saying anything. Allison spots a turning toy, triggering memories of her childhood when it led her to be locked in a store by her mother. Injured, her father eventually decided to give her to another family. Allison recalls seeing a priest casting spells in her house, leading her to live outside. Years later, Richard apologizes for his behavior and explains the importance of his business trip, which Allison reluctantly accepts. As Richard is at the office, Allison, alone at home, experiences a power outage and discovers her father's shadow when investigating. Allison, frightened by her father's shadow, yells and searches for light, but none returns. Rushing to her son, she finds him safe, calming her nerves. Later, Allison wakes up, feeling stuck in sleep paralysis. Hearing a voice on a walkie-talkie threatening to take her baby, she panics but finds her baby safe. Allison calls Richard, who dismisses it as her delusion. At night, she hears a voice from the upstairs room, discovering an old tape recorded by her father, showing a memory of her going to the forest with her parents. Allison discovers a video of her mother engaging in strange acts, prompting her to seek the help of the priest seen in the video. When she meets him and asks about her mother, the priest initially refuses to provide information. Allison insists she feels a presence in her house, but the priest ignores her and closes the door. Later, he visits Allison's house and reveals that her mother was under the control of an evil soul. To keep Allison safe, her father gave her to another family. The priest explains that the soul in her mother was dangerous, resistant to spells, and they had to end her by separating her neck. Her father had sensed the return of a soul, still lingering in the house. Allison, frightened, shares that during sleep paralysis, she sees someone. The priest confirms it's real, explaining the soul doesn't want to leave. Allison asks what it wants. The priest reveals it's her grandmother's soul seeking her lost child, her aunt. Allison spots the soul behind the priest and, scared, asks how to remove it. The priest advises burning all things connected to her. Richard arrives, hears them, and angrily tells the priest to leave. Richard dismisses the priest's claims, suspecting a trap. The priest leaves, but faces the soul, represented as the bride from Allison's picture, scaring him. As the priest prays and casts spells in his car, the soul attacks, leading to his demise. Meanwhile, Allison, bringing her baby into her room, sees the priest leaving. Confused, she follows him and discovers the soul. When Richard approaches, the soul retreats. They find their baby missing, prompting a call to the police and the paranormal investigator Allison saw on TV. The investigator arrives at their home in response to their call. The paranormal investigator uses a magical crystal ball to confirm the presence of an evil soul in Allison's room, revealing her baby has been taken. He suggests Allison must enter the soul's world to retrieve her baby. Allison agrees, and the priest begins a ritual, lighting candles in her room. In the other world, the priest confronts the soul holding Allison's baby, urging its return. The spirit vanishes, revealing a demonic symbol on the wall. Returning to the real world, the priest explains that Allison's grandmother worshipped demons, leading to her possession. When Allison's grandfather discovered this, he buried his wife alive, and now the spirit seeks revenge, taking both Allison's mother's sister and her baby. Allison learns from the priest that her grandmother, seeking revenge for being buried alive while pregnant, takes babies from the family. Richard is concerned and asks the priest what to do. The priest explains only Allison can confront the soul in her world. Allison lies down, takes deep breaths, and enters the soul's world, finding herself in a box. Escaping, she reaches her childhood room where her mother appears to comfort her. However, Allison recognizes it's not real. In reality, her mother, in a different appearance, starts choking her. The priest instructs Richard to bring his bag to retrieve Allison from the other world. In the room, Richard encounters his secretary, realizing it's a spirit's trick. As the door closes, he hears voices from the washroom, and the soul takes control of him. In the other world, Allison witnesses her weeping grandfather and her real grandmother cutting her neck. The priest, waiting for Richard's return, goes upstairs to find everything strange. Richard, under the soul's control, is in the room. The priest quickly grabs his bag and joins Allison, creating a barrier with his magic. The soul moves away, but Allison sees the first wife of her grandfather, the spirit behind them. Allison's father advises her to stay, but determined to bring back her son, she presses on. She witnesses her grandfather burying her pregnant grandmother despite her pleas. Allison digs and finds her baby but is captured by the soul as she attempts to return. Back in the real world, Allison asks if she brought her baby, and the priest says no, but she tried her best. They hear the baby's voice, discovering Richard playing with him. The priest rejoices, seeing Allison's family is now whole. In the future, the priest visits Allison's family, but they're moving to avoid putting Allison and the baby in danger. The priest, finding only the baby, senses a dangerous power and gives the baby a crystal ball. When it turns black, Allison appears, welcoming him before attacking and ending him. Richard discovers the priest's body and, in the basement, finds the baby in the hands of a demon. Allison, controlled by the soul, attacks and ends Richard. The movie concludes with the suspense of what the dead bride will do with Allison and her baby, now under her control.